Okay, we'll try to put this on the whole screen. Okay, and here's what takes place in phase space. Each little dot represents a species or an individual, either one. Organisms explore evolutionary phase space now in single-step mutations, and they do it with ruthless efficiency like water exploring a canyon. So what's happening here is that we start off here with a fish in the deep blue sea, mutations take place, and then you go to the next phase here in the Valley of Survival. And now the numbers, since they're beautifully adapted, they build up. See, they build up in number there. So now you've got more of these guys, lobe-fin fish. They build up. And then there are so many of them. There might be 10 million, 100 million lobe-fin fish in the Pacific or something like that. And now you can do calculations and show that the probability of the next step, the probability of moving the right enhancer in front of the right homeotic homeobox gene or whatever, is not only possible, but it's inevitable. You can prove that it's inevitable that the next mutation will take place. And so now you get the next, you start to invade the next locus. The little yellow arrows represent mutations. So see, it just keeps building up, next mutation, building up, next mutation, building up, next mutation. And so the organisms are tracking or coursing their way through evolutionary phase space like water through a canyon. So what you want to think about as you look at this image is picture all these random events, the changes to the environment and changes to the phenotypes of organisms as being kind of like a constant rain falling down on this whole phase space diagram. And just as rain would be channeled down into the channel or the valley and flow along, in a similar way, you see how natural selection, which is anything but random, channels the mutations very efficiently through phase space. Once in a while you have a few organisms, see a few dots up here in the valleys, the foothills. They're just barely making it up there. They're not very well adapted. They don't survive very well. And up here in the taller mountains, nothing makes it up there. Okay, so the principles here are that the number of organisms at each locus in phase space builds up until the probability of the next step becomes inevitable. There's the principle that one step leads to another. By many small steps you can climb a mountain, and by many small steps a dramatic change in organisms can occur over evolutionary time. Notice that evolution leaves behind what I call a trail of ancestors. See, look at that trail of all the ancestors that are still there, still beautifully adapted to their respective environments. In my class, someone always asked me, Dr. Rainbow, if humans have evolved from apes, they always think humans have evolved from apes, which they haven't. We've evolved from ape-like creatures. But they say, if humans have evolved from apes, why are there still apes in Africa? I always get that question every semester. And you should be able to easily see now that that's an exceedingly silly question. That's no different than asking, why are there still fish 5 miles below the surface of the ocean? What's the answer? Because they're beautifully adapted to their environment. Another principle is that evolution is a blind, random, fluky process driven by random mutations to DNA and random changes to the environment. Well, I already said that. It's the selection is anything but random. So in a supreme irony, this process, as I hope you may be able to see, even though it's driven by random processes, it ends up creating creatures that look just as if they'd been designed by a creator. Which they really have, haven't they? Because it's the creator who dictated Le Chatelier's principle, and Coulomb's law, and Newton's second law, and the Schrödinger equation, and all the laws that govern how the atoms and molecules self-assemble. So God still gets all the credit for this. In fact, he's an even more awesome God. Now, let me take stock of where I am. How many minutes over am I? Okay, I mean over my time. What? Oh, 5 minutes. Okay. Because I need to respect the interplay that you've all come to see. So give me a second here to decide on how I want to use my time. I actually almost finished what I needed to there. Okay, what I'm going to do is simply make one last titanically important point about evolution. Now, what is it that you're all wondering the most about? This all makes a lot of sense. We know that this happens. Creationists freely admit that evolution takes place. They would say, however, that only microevolution can take place. I have no doubt at all that Dr. Hovind would agree with the fundamental essence of this picture, but he would say that you can only get small changes to organisms, like changing one insect into a different color or something like that. That's called microevolution. What you're wondering is, can you really go from things like a fish to an amphibian? Can you get big-time evolution, big changes, big dramatic changes, which is called macroevolution? And what I'm going to do here is try to explain the results of the field that I at least like to think of as my specialty, and which is called Evo-Devo, or evolutionary developmental biology. And I'm going to show you some animations that show how you can create radically new forms of organisms incredibly easily. All right, so I need to close this and open up this one. Okay, this is an animation I use in my class.